the natives and the non-natives are here.
Yeah.
So we
And the
have,
invasives or whatever.
you
The
know,
non-natives.
they're here. I got it. You know, I can name 3 of them around us, right? They're already here. So we have to not make the problem worse. Okay? I'm going to be real conscious when I talk about this, you know, because this is what I do, right? We need to be able to not make the problem worse without going to these extreme measures to remove. We're so focused on, like, we spend hundreds of millions of dollars every year just here in Florida, let alone around the country, removing invasive plants. Now, mind you, we do believe that invasive plants are basically the largest causal factor of extinctions around the world, right? Whatever that, whether that's invasive species from plants or animals or otherwise. You know, we talk about like the chestnut here in America. We were just having a conversation in North America here, that the chestnut was the most populous tree on this continent in the southern U.S.
Wow.
until, like, I believe just into the 1900s, and then it was gone. It functionally extinct in like 30 to 40 years because we brought an exotic food source that we liked, the Chinese chestnut. It had, I think it was a beetle in it, I believe, and it destroyed, like, every time you think about a pine and an oak, you know what I'm talking about? Every time you, yeah, of course. Every time you think about a pine or an oak, dude, you see a chestnut there, and that's what it used to look like. And like, that's food.
Wow.
You know, there was a food source all over this entire, you know, continent that was so plentiful, so much chestnut that would have been harvested every year. I think one of the things I recall is one of the Bartrams, talking about the native Seminoles here, calling them giants because he said they were huge in comparison to him and his European counterparts. And I think that's incredible to imagine that most of their entire food source at that time was wild. It was native, right? Like, whoa, you know?
So you're saying the indigenous people were giants?
Apparently that's what they said, yeah.
That's right.
Right.
People don't know that. But
Mm-hmm.
the people, there's a bunch of accounts where like ships would pull up and they'd be all really, really tall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's interesting you brought that up, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they were eating wild foods, you're saying?
That's it, yeah. There was very minimal cultivation. Of course, now, mind you, when I say cultivation, like, they were working with the ecosystem. And at this point, with like Tierra Negra and the Amazon, they believe the Amazon was cultivated by the natives down there, which is, you know, again, such an incredible, wow, how, what?
There's so much that we don't know about our history. Like this whole place could have been,
yeah, for sure.
Like you know, like really productive and beautifully. We were really tuned into nature.
Mm-hmm.
We weren't disconnected like we are now.
Yeah.
As a society, it's interesting to think about. Imagine a whole society who knew how to tend the land. That's what it was.
Everybody, yeah.
It was awareness. It was some sort of, but then we forgot it. What do you think happened? Do you think it was like purposely like tried to shoved under the rug?
Bro, that question though. I mean, I would say that it was, I would say the few were motivated to control the many for resources.
Wow.
If I was to try to not
And that's why we're here, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello.
Permaculture is literally about not perpetuating that, what you were saying, and bringing about more resources.
Yeah.
With God's creation.
There's so much here, and there's enough for us. Okay, past to present, present to future. We've got to, you know, we got to move forward. You know, we can't just. It's hard. You know,
but I go macro a lot, so yeah, thank you. Yeah.
It's so easy to do that though, because like, wow, what did we do?
Look at this cypress swamp.
Oh, beautiful, gorgeous out here.
Thousands of years to develop.
And now we're here. They still don't really know why cypress knees exist. Science has so many different, they're like pretty freaking sure they know why, but they're still like, there's a possibility of this other thing. I think that's amazing that science is still like, oh,
it's for alien movie Hollywood
something.
Sets.
Yeah. It was for somebody. Well, I forget what somebody said. It was for stubbing the feet and knees of large dinosaurs to not mess up the trees. You know, which I think is so funny. I don't know. Who knows if that's true or not.
They say it's to hold the water over the to adapt, but
Yeah.
It's still magic.
There's still, yeah, that's what it's still magic either way. Yeah, exactly. Thinking about past to present, present to future, as far as like the implementation of native plants and such, you know, I realized that we need to not make the problem worse and we need to try to make it better. But I think, you know, spraying entire forests to then try to plant them back with natives may be more detrimental than it is beneficial, because nature will always win. And
It's true.
every,
We need to come to that conclusion. Thank you.
you know, and I,
Bro, because I see him spraying all my Riverbend Park with the Roundup too, and I think this doesn't make any sense.
you know, it's
So
a little counterintuitive.
Bro, thank you for saying that. What's the solution? Because that's a
Okay.
big, if that's not the solution,
Yeah.
right?
I wouldn't say it is. And of course, I can't be, you know, I can't try to say that I have the 100% solution. But in my perspective, from my experience in the field, you know, over a decade now, just kind of being in and out of it, that we need to plant back. We need to use the ecosystems that are easily accessible. Like, for example, shout out to like one of my favorite authors, Doug Tallamy. Great books, kind of got me into it way back when. And I actually just met him at an event I was working at here, doing native design a couple months ago. Got a book signed, my old book from when I was like 18, 17, you know, been a while. It's really cool. Talks about, he has an organization called Homegrown National Park. And the reason I bring that up is to say that they're focused on taking, there are over 40 million acres of green grass lawns cultivated in this country alone. Okay?
How
That is
much?
40 million. That is more than any crop that we grow. Wow. By far.
So like, that's interesting you frame it that way. There's 40 million acres of grass, lawns, that we're paying people to fix the sprinklers and the fertilizing it and the runoff. What a mess.
The pollution, yeah, the runoff, no, not good.
So interesting. So what is Doug Tallamy, you said? Homegrown National Parks?
Yep, it's one of the organizations, wrote several books as well, really great author, an entomologist by trade, really great speaker, great teacher, kind of pushed this a lot, you know, and I've worked with the Florida Native Plant Society for years, and FANN, which is the Florida Association of Native Nurseries. They do great work out there as well. Like, shout out to some of these really awesome people.
Florida, amazing. So what is so those organizations, like, what is their mission? What are they out here doing? Like, what's right, you were getting to it.
They're looking to restore and conserve native plants by any means, and I agree with the necessity, and I'm there for them, and I love the organization, and I work with them, and I will continue to work with them and support them. They're one of my favorites. I just realize that I think we are starting to understand that we're fighting an impossible battle against a natural process that has colonized the world, because everything was native or invasive in a different place at some point in our entire planet's history. Back billions of years, everything was non-native at some point. You know, like, they think about, we're all non-native here. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
right?
People talk about that all the time.
You know, we're from here.
So it's
really.
So dude, it's interesting because some people have a different thing. Yeah, like, some people think about it where, like, you're not from here, I'm from here, you're not. But you're saying, if you really trace it back, we're all just, by the way, we're all meant to be here.
Yeah, because we're here.
Because we're here.
Yeah.
Amazing. So interesting. Because a lot of people in these organizations say, do away with all these plants, only plant these. You're saying, because what you're saying is interesting. The closer you get to it, it's nuanced. Yeah, beautiful.
It's definitely nuanced. I would just say that we need to stop making the problem worse. Right.
Step one.
Yep. Which is like that. And I think that's where, like, I will say, you know, sometimes in the realm of permaculture, like, we are sometimes planting highly invasive plants, you know, and sometimes people put bamboo in willy-nilly, you know, or, you know, there are a lot of other examples. I won't get into a whole bunch of specifics, but I can just see that sometimes we forget that, you know, we're trying to control the ecosystem rather than the stewardship, the management, the working with it together, over just the do what I want, when I want, whenever I want, forever, and I'm gonna rip everything out that's not there. And so working
conquistador style.
Yeah, for real.
Right. Because that is, by the way, people still have that mindset with our land.
Yo.
They still do it.
And with each other. You know, it's, yeah.
Whoa.
That's a tough, yeah, that's a whoo, yeah, man.
Let's talk about it.
Just trying to work together and collaborate, man. Just trying to adapt and understand each other and come to points of agreement. You know, again, I think we should have bottom lines like, don't plant invasive, for example, just talking about the context here, like don't plant invasive plants, but also like I'm not gonna hate because you have some bananas in your backyard because you're feeding your family. You know, there is absolutely a balance with those two things we need to find. I just, with all the things, it feels like we have either become apathetic to it or we are trying so hard to like turn back the clock that we are losing the adaptability and the progress we could be making in the present toward whatever goal we want to have. Because if we're spending hundreds of millions of dollars ripping out invasive pepper and coral artesia, like what are the other things that money could possibly go towards that's a little better? Let's replant, you know, highways. Why are there so many highways without native plants planted in them? Like there's so much land that's out there that's just sitting there doing nothing. I mean, anyway.
No, you're right.
Yeah,
Be more
real talk.
strategic with it.
We're in the garden. It's existential.